This is the Venus Cuckoldress Podcast, a place to learn all things cuckolding for the curious, for the passionate, and for the sexually empowered woman who wants it all.
Let's go.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Venus. Thanks for joining me today. And today I have such a great story. Emma's on the show. She's going to share her story about their cuckold, pussy-free marriage. Pussy-free as of their wedding day. She pegged him on their wedding night, and then ever since then, he's been pussy-free. And I know that a lot of couples, actually most couples that I've come across in this lifestyle who enjoy cuckolding are not pussy-free, meaning that there is no sexual denial between wife and husband or partner and partner. And so it's usually just, a fun, cuckolding is a fun little thing that they use to kind of spice things up in the bedroom. But for some couples, they do want to go down this road of sexual denial. And I get it. I understand for many reasons. I get that why that can be such a strong desire for couples. For a lot of the times, it's just a lot less pressure for the husband to perform sexually, and he appreciates that part of it. But also, some guys really, honestly, think that, or they feel like being pussy free, and giving their wife this gift of sex with other guys is very much like a form of devotion to her, or a sense of devotion to her. So I get that. And then there's other people, when they're in just like a power dynamic. And this is all part of that. This is the part that's the quote unquote unfairness of it all. So I get it. There's a lot of reasons why people want to do the pussy free thing. There's a lot of guys fantasizing about the pussy free thing. If that's what gets you off, you're going to love this episode because she talks about what it's actually like for her and why they love it and why it works for them. But first, events. I recently went to Europe to do a couple of meet and greets events with fans. And I put it out there that on these couple of days, I would be in these different places and at these times. And, it was open to anybody to come and say hello, to meet me, to cheers for a drink or whatever. And it was going to be like a casual, fun meet and greet thing. One of them was in Dublin. One of them was in London. And they were a lot of fun. Okay. Dublin was a mix of couples and singles, and lots of my helpful cucks came in from all different parts of the world, actually, to hang out and spend some time with me while I was there in Dublin. And it was awesome. It was so fun. The meet and greet was great. I got to meet some couples and singles, and they were able to, tell me about their stories and stuff like that. And I loved it. Okay. For those of you who are listening, who got to meet me in Dublin, that was so much fun. So thank you so much for coming out to that. Dublin was my favorite city of all the cities I went to. It was just such a vibe. I love it there. I definitely want to go back to Ireland and spend at least a week exploring, because 4 days was not enough. But it was so great to spend some time with my helpful cucks. There was 4 of them who went out and spontaneously decided that they were all the next day going to go out and get owl tattoos. And for those of you who have not heard, this is the new symbol for cucks, is the owl. And why the owl, you ask? Well, because owls are always watching, and always watching in the night. So I thought this would be a great symbol for cucks. And so anyway, they all went out and got owl tattoos, and matching owl tattoos. So they all agreed on one design. It's a really nice black silhouette of an owl. And they each got it on different parts of their bodies. And for 2 of them, it was the very first tattoo that they'd ever gotten. And it was just awesome. They all went to the same tattoo parlor, got it all done all at the same time. And I was just thrilled because it turned out it's so well. And I was just so happy that they all went and did this. So thank you to all my helpful cucks out there who got owl tattoos. That was awesome. And then London, the London meet and greet was at this really cool, kind of like loungy pub kind of place. And, they set aside like a meeting room, not a meeting room, but a space for me to have my meet and greet there, which was pretty cool. And there were lots of people that came. It was a kind of a mix of couples, singles, and bulls, and my helpful cucks. And so, it was so fun. It was such a fun vibe. Like everybody was just kind of mingling and having a great time and talking to each other. And I got to meet everybody, and it was awesome. We were there for a few hours. Like it was great. But at the very end, well, the end for me, everybody went out after this together. But anyway, the end for me. It was kind of fucking crazy. And I have decided that from now on, unfortunately, if I ever do any kind of event like this again, that I need to hire a security guard or a team of security guards, because it was actually really quite scary what happened. But I was just sitting there having a great time. On the outdoor area, I was sitting there with one of my fans from the show, and we were just having a conversation. And all of a sudden, this fucking weird ass guy walked in, immediately sat down right across from me, and there was nobody else out there. And he stared at me. And I mean, when I say stared at me, this guy would not take his eyes off of me, and he looked like he wanted to rape and kill me. It was the most uncomfortable stare. I immediately was like, what the fuck is up with this guy? I'm looking over and I'm looking on what the fuck. I was wearing a dress, and he was like staring at my crotch, and it was so scary for me. I was just like, I said to the guy I was talking to, I said, I need to go inside because this guy's making me really uncomfortable. And as soon as I went and sat inside and I started talking to the other people from my group, I said, this guy outside is really weird. He's staring at me strange and making me feel very uncomfortable. And they were like, what? And then as I was saying that, the creepy stalker dude from outside started looking in the window, looking for me, trying to find where I went. And that's when I was like, really started to panic. I'm like, oh my God, who is this fucking creep? And why is he here? And why is he like locked in on me? Like I felt like prey. It was so fucking scary. Anyway, all of the people who I was with, my group of fans, were so amazing because they immediately were like, okay, we'll take care of this. We're going to go and talk to this guy and ask him to leave. And so they did that. And eventually he did leave. But then he came back and was like following me with his eyes all around the whole venue. And I was so fucking freaked out because I was like, all right, this guy's a full-on stalker. Like this guy wants to kill me. I was so fucking scared. I was like shaking. I don't know, for a lot of you guys listening, because it's mostly guys listening to this podcast, you probably don't know what this feels like. But for any of the ladies who are listening, you know what this feels like when you get really scared by a man who's fucking crazy and wants to kill you, or acts like he wants to kill you. This is absolutely terrifying. And I just needed to get the fuck out of there. So big shout out to Sergio, my helpful cuck, who took this guy out of the building, down around the corner, and basically like turned the guy around so that he could not see me as I ran out of there and into an Uber to get the fuck out. So thank you to Sergio for helping me escape a very awful situation. And from now on, I'm absolutely going to have an entourage of security team, unfortunately. So that part sucked, but otherwise everything was incredible. After that, I did go to Paris. Paris is outstandingly, unbelievably, romantically beautiful. I have never seen so many beautiful buildings in my life, but a weird vibe. And just like mobbed by tourists. So I don't know. It was a cool place to go and visit once, but I'm not sure I want to go back. But London and Dublin were fucking amazing. I would absolutely love to go back and explore some more. So that's the update regarding the crazy ass fucking stalker and the amazing, really great meet and greets that I went to. So I'm slowly recovering from jet lag and back in the swing of things. So that's it for. Oh, wait, there is one more announcement actually. Becca and Drew, they were on the show about a month ago and shared their super hot stories of their marriage, their cuckolding marriage. Okay. It was so hot, like insanely hot. So hot indeed that YouTube, even though I only published the audio version of that episode, I didn't even publish the video one yet. And they took it down and they put a strike on my account, a warning. They were like, that you can't do that. Like, you're in trouble. And so anybody listening to this right now, if you are like, well, what episode, if you listen to my show on YouTube and you're like, what episode are you talking about? It's because it got taken down. So listen to it on Spotify or Apple. It's there. And anyway, Becca and Drew are going to join myself and Doc Chocolate for the next Pillow Talk event, which is a live event and it's free to attend. And if you want to check it out, the link is in the show notes. It's going to be Friday, May 16th at 12 p.m. Pacific. That's 3 p.m. Eastern. And it is live, so you got to catch it live. But yeah, they're going to be there. So if you have some questions or comments about them or their marriage or the show that they did, make sure that you join us for that Pillow Talk on May 16th. Okay, that's it for announcements and news and all that good stuff. Let's jump into the episode right after this quick break. My friends over at Joy Mode are on a mission to redefine men's erectile health. They wanted a healthier, all-natural erectile support product, but only had gas station pills and prescription drugs to choose from. So they started Joy Mode, and they partnered with best-in-class scientists and biochemistry PhDs to create their Performance Booster. Joy Mode supports increased blood flow for improved erection quality and firmness. It's science-backed. It's formulated by doctors and PhD scientists, recommended by urologists, and made with clinically proven ingredients. Joy Mode is both an on-demand and daily supplement, so you can head into the bedroom with confidence. It's discreet. It's grab-and-go packaging. It helps you perform your best when the occasion arises. Go to tryjoymode.com/Venus and get 20% off with the code Venus at checkout. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code Venus at tryjoymode.com. Joy Mode. It's great sex solved naturally. Okay, joining me on the show, I have a special guest. Her name's Emma. She's joining me all the way from Europe. I'm excited for you to share your story. Say hello to all the listeners, Emma.
Hi, everyone. Very excited to be here and hoping I can share some insights with you.
Great.
Let's see what happens.
Okay, so we came across each other online, and I am thrilled to have you share your story because the beginning part is somewhat similar to like how I was introduced to cuckolding. I met my first cuck boyfriend on Tinder of all places. And I understand that that's where you met your husband as well. So tell us about how that all happened.
Yes, so we did meet on Tinder. We did share some history together, so we were not completely unknowns to each other. Mm-hmm. So that may have helped a little bit. But yes, we did meet on Tinder. We had a great first date, and actually quite quickly after the first date, the first indications came from him that he actually might be into cuckolding a little bit, and he asked me if the term was something I was familiar with, and surprise, surprise, I was actually quite excited myself to hear that. So that's how we did start.
So how soon did he bring it up, and is that how he said it? Like, oh, have you heard of cuckolding? Do you know what that is?
Well, that was, that came after a bit of discussion about, preferences and stuff like that. But we were quite comfortable with each other from the very beginning. So it was actually quite quick. And it resonated with me quite well. My history had been such that I was always in kinds of slightly very traditional relationships and did not have a lot of this freedom, or like open relationships were never discussed, or sexuality was not very out there. So it was something that was very, very interesting to me to hear that he had these ideas.
Okay. So you didn't know that this kind of relationship existed before that?
I kind of did, but so the term was familiar to me, but I do mention that I did have to Google it first just to make sure that I was really, I had the right idea, which I did. But yes, that's how it actually started.
Oh no,
Yes.
You Googled it. Oh God, I can just imagine what showed up.
But he knows it, and I was just making sure that I was making a fool out of myself. So
okay,
I didn't want to say yes to something that I was thinking to be mistakenly something completely different. So I wanted to make sure that that was actually what I thought it was, and yes, I was correct. So
okay, so he brought up the word, you Googled it, and you were like, okay, but you said before this. Like open relationships and sexuality was just like, it was just not like a thing in relationships before that. So how come you were open to it? How come you were not one of those many women who were like, oh, hell no, that sounds weird?
Well, I have always been very sexual myself, and I've been very interested in all sorts of things throughout my life from a very young age. And so I always did feel a little bit like something, or a big part of me was invisible when I was in these very, very normal, very vanilla relationships where, you don't talk about sex and it happens once a week.
You're right. Yeah.
On a Saturday with the lights out. So for me, I was that kind of person always. And I was actually, even during my previous relationship, I was thinking that, maybe I want an open relationship. Maybe that's something I want. I have always been, maybe not the best girlfriend in the general sense of the term. So I have been the asshole at times, some history of being unfaithful. And I didn't quite realize that maybe that was just me acting out, that the normal way of being was necessarily not for me.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know how to think about that. Because when you grow up in a circle, but that's quite conservative, quite, traditional, you're not supposed to be that woman.
Yeah.
It's hard to give yourself the permission to even think about that, could I?
Yeah.
Could I maybe live this life? So yes. And I'm not proud of those years, but I am proud of the person I am today, that I actually dared to say yes to this. And now I feel like I'm, being myself.
Yes. Oh my God. I can relate so much. I cheated on every boyfriend there ever was. And I couldn't help it. I was just like that. I don't know. I was left feeling like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do what I need to do? And like, oh my God. So I was the same way when I found cuckolding. I was like, oh, this is perfect for me.
Yes. And that's pretty much how I felt. So I was like, hey, this is perfect for me.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, I don't think I was that person that would have wanted just an open relationship to both of us. I think I needed there to be something more to it, like something more sexual. I always wanted to commit to one person. I didn't necessarily want the whole, let's just be open, both of us, to dating whoever we want.
Yeah.
Not so much to dating, more about the sex and that side of things. So
yeah. So, okay. And then how did it happen, or how did it evolve from there? So he told you about it, you were open-minded to it, and you were like, okay, I'm willing to give this a try. Was it just a talking about it, sharing fantasies, and then eventually trying something?
Yes. So we started out by just talking about it quite a bit. Obviously, talking about like our previous relationships, previous experiences was a big part of it. So not so much fantasizing about what would happen in the future, but just for me to be able to share what I've done before was a huge thing. Because normally that's not the type of thing that guys necessarily want to listen or hear if they've been, wilder or, more than they can handle. But we spoke about that quite a bit. Obviously, it took a while. I was scared as well. It was not normal for me to be very in love, very in the, first stages of dating. And, you're all about that one person, then thinking, can I actually have sex with another person?
Yeah.
Or that, if I do it, if he's not ready for it, will this destroy everything that we have? Like, even if he brought it up, what if he's not ready for it?
Yeah.
So if after the first experience he's like, well, no, this doesn't feel good, I actually want to break up with you. That was like my worst fear.
Yeah. Very legitimate fears,
Yes.
by the way, because let's face it, this can be very emotionally taxing for everyone involved, but especially for him. So,
and I think as we didn't have like the background of, 10 years married, 3 kids, where you kind of might know already that, well, even just for the kids, he wouldn't leave. Right.
Yeah.
But we were just like, freshly dating and very, volatile in that sense that, it was all very new and both of our insecurities came up. And so it was a fear, but yeah.
So, eventually you guys decided that you wanted to do this. And what was like the first kind of step towards that?
Well, the first step was that we did speak about it a lot. And we actually even drafted like this paper of like what we promised to do if we go further with this, so that, we promised to, talk about things. And so we kind of laid it out that, what would be the rules, what would,
really?
how we would promise to treat each other, how we would promise to, so that we were really prepared to, to actually do it. And then I went on Tinder. That was what we figured out was the easiest way of doing it. 'Cause there's not a lot of like very specific dating apps for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that would have been even, I think, more daunting, because then that would have, usually they're like very fetish or kink oriented. So we didn't want to do that. So I just went on Tinder and swiped away for a little while. And then we found someone that seemed like a good one. And that's how it started.
That's very similar to what I did too. I had pretty good success with Tinder. I found that like once I just flat out explained, I'm just looking for friends with benefits. I'm in a relationship. Guys were like, okay, cool. Like, yeah.
Yeah, the same here. So I did not pretend I was single. God no. So it was, but we didn't mention the word cuckolding necessarily in the beginning, because that's still, I think it kind of comes with a stigma of a sort that, some guys might just take it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because even in our case, it was me just going on a date with the guy. And then we didn't even really talk about it much afterwards. I mean, or that was not the point of it. So it wasn't like, sharing every detail of him to my husband or my current husband. So we didn't mention that, but he knew that I was in a relationship, and he was totally, or that he knew that my husband was completely fine with it. And I knew that I was mainly just, looking for sex or friends with benefits instead of like anything more serious. So
you were looking for the guys, and was your husband involved at like helping you choose these guys, or no?
And not really, no. I mean, he was there as an emotional support, but like he didn't have any say, or he didn't want to have any say as to, who would be okay, who would not be okay, for example. Okay. So, and there was quite a long period when he didn't really even want to like know what the guys looked like, or too many details about them. I think he wanted me to have like this kind of space where I could make my own decisions, and he didn't want to, have an effect on who would I, pick or.
Really? Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Like, that's not typical. Usually cucks are like little mini Steven Spielbergs. They want to be all up in the script. They want to be all up in the choosing the who's going to be involved and what they look like and sound like and how big their dick is.
Yeah. But in the beginning, we didn't have that at all. I mean, we don't either now, but nowadays, he has met those people, they've shook hands and, they've, said hi to each other. So it's a bit different. But in the beginning, he wanted to kind of stay out of it for me, which was, I think, very nice, because it didn't it also didn't put me under any pressure to choose guys that were, more his type than mine, for example, or
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I could imagine that makes it feel less performative
Yeah.
for the fantasy and more doing it for your own pleasure. And that's big. So for anybody listening, that is big for women. I think that's a lot. I mean, there are women out there who are just going to be like, yes, I really want, I don't want to have to find these guys. Yes, you can do that. Like offload those tasks, delegate those tasks to your husband and he can do it for you and whatever. I get that. But if you want to have more say and more ability to choose, then that's amazing. That's awesome. There can be a big benefit to that.
Yeah.
So what happened when you you found a guy on Tinder, you really liked him, and then you made plans to hook up?
Yeah. So but basically, yes. So it was always in the books that, if everything goes well, we will end up having sex.
Yeah.
But it was the first time for him as well. So despite him kind of always knowing that this is his thing. So
his first. Oh, okay.
So from an early age, he did know that this was something that he thought about a lot, and he really wanted this. But it was still the first time that, in an adult relationship that he's done this. So it was scary. And it was actually for me, it was in the end quite easy. I realized while I was on that date that I can do this and that I am exactly what I thought I would be. So quite detached from sex in a good way so that I can just enjoy it, have fun. And it doesn't, destroy my feelings or cause any issues if I'm very much in love like I was and I still am. But for him, it was a slightly different experience. So it was different than he expected. It wasn't like a constant, hard on and being super aroused when I was on the date. It was actually quite the opposite. He was quite scared, quite not, not there. And, but I think that kind of started the whole thing, the way that we are doing it, that he doesn't have to be aroused whenever I see a guy, or it's not about him, being turned on when I'm on a date, but it's more about me enjoying myself, and he enjoys the pleasure that I get to do what I want. And then, so it doesn't have to be a constant turn on when things are happening.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I love this. And this is why we need more of the female perspective out there, because I love a few things about what you said. The first, where you said, for me, this was about detaching myself from sex. And, and that is key. Absolutely. Especially in the beginning for women who are nervous about doing this. If you're going to be sleeping with someone other than the guy who you're in love with, this is about just exploring someone else's body and seeking sexual pleasure from that together. And that's it. Like, that's a compartment. You can compartmentalize these things in your life. You do not have to be falling in love with this dude just because he put his dick in your pussy. So no strings attached, friend with benefits. Literally, that's it. Or even just a dude with benefits. Like, that's all it needs to be, or doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. But I also love what you said about your husband. Okay, so he was not there. Was that your choice to not have him there to watch, or did he not want to be?
Both of ours. So I've actually, to this day, he's only seen me once with a guy.
Yeah.
And we've been pretty active throughout these 5-6 years that we've been together. So, but he actually enjoys that I just get to do my thing alone.
Interesting.
Until now, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not too long ago since he had his first time where he was actually there present, but he quite does not enjoy the fact that, he would just be there, or he knows that it might affect me. It might affect the other guy.
Yeah.
It's not a performance for him. It's about us having fun.
Yeah.
And but he still thinks that it's our sex. It's our date as well when I'm out. So he feels connected to what I'm doing, but he doesn't necessarily want to be there, or doesn't think that he has to be there.
This is so
for
fascinating.
This to work.
I feel like for him, it must be more about compersion, about he's really fulfilled and satisfied and enjoying the process, knowing that you are receiving pleasure from this other person, right? And more about that and less about his own fantasy, which is just so fascinating to me. I think that's awesome.
Yes.
But the fact that you said that this was very, very uncomfortable for him that first time, that this was not so much about him getting off as it was for him to almost lean into that discomfort in that moment, which I've heard this so many times. And this is one thing you'll see from online and hear from other people, is that reality versus fantasy is so different when it comes to this whole cuckolding thing. You watch porn, there's the script, there's the, oh my God, it's so hot and I'm wanking off and it's just the best orgasm of my life. And I've dreamed about this all my life. I want to watch my woman cuck me or whatever. Reality is like a whole bunch different. Like it is. I mean, guys say that they're almost feel like they're going to throw up. Like it is so uncomfortable. And this is why I talked about in the beginning of this conversation, very real concerns around, will this damage my relationship? Because this is not easy for the guy to go through. This is something that when he does, he's either going to be able to get through it or he's just going to freak out and be like, I cannot fucking do this. Like, this is the worst thing ever, whatever. It's not easy for him.
No, definitely not.
But, and I love the fact that you talked about like, this is not about him getting a boner every time you're with somebody else or, talking about being with somebody else, that this is more than that, which is great. But I think it's like a fascinating that he's not there, that he went through it, that it was very uncomfortable, but that he still loved it. So what happened afterwards after you were with this guy? Was there any kind of like aftercare you did with your cuck? Like when you came home and you told him about it, was there some bonding that happened there?
Well, yes. I mean, we did see each other very, very quickly after it had happened. And funny thing you say that it was definitely an experience for him where he did say after it that I'm not sure if this is, the right thing for me, if I actually really want this. Luckily enough, it did not make me feel like I had just damaged our relationship. So it was more like, he's not sure if this cuckolding thing is for him, but we were still fine, which was lovely, so that I didn't have to, go through the panic of like, have I destroyed this by doing, because it's hard to be the active person. It's hard to be the one that goes through with it, does something, and then someone has a change of heart with what you did. But quite quickly, we did talk about it. If I remember correctly, it wasn't like we had any sort of reclaimed sex, and we still don't afterwards. It was more like talking, more like comforting him, and also, I guess in a way me as well, that it was pretty big for both of us. But then it wasn't too long after that it came back into our conversations again and again. And it was quite clear that, maybe it was the first shock, and then that this was maybe here to stay. And it turns out it was. So
yeah, it's so interesting how that happens, because I've heard that too, where it's such an unpleasant experience that's the knee-jerk reaction is like, oh, I don't think that this is something I want to do again. But then funny enough,
yes,
funny enough, he wants to do it again. It's almost like he just got like slapped in the face by the cuckolding fantasy and didn't like it getting slapped, but then all of a sudden realized actually that was kind of fun. Like I wanted that again. But anyway, I think that's fantastic that you guys did have that kind of like talk through it afterwards, and then you worked through it, and that he was explicit about the fact that your relationship was okay, regardless your relationship was okay. Because I think that you're right. Like as a woman going through that, being the one who's taking the action, who's doing the thing, that is such a big risk that you take, that you don't want to hurt your partner. You don't want to hurt your relationship. You don't want to be the one who causes harm.
Yeah.
That's not fun for anybody.
No, definitely not. No. And it would have been devastating if it had ended so that, he was like, well, I don't think I can see you the same way again ever. Yeah. Or that we have to break up or something. It would have, it would have been devastating.
Yeah. My first cuck boyfriend, the one I met on Tinder, the one who wanted his whole fucking adult life, like absolutely desired this to no end. He was confusing as fuck because he would like want this, we would do it. And then he would pull away and he'd be like just ghosting. And like, I was like, what is going on? All these like mixed signals and stuff. It took me forever to realize that he was going through that like self-hatred afterwards of, I can't believe I'm into this. I don't want to do this. Like, and then, I'm thinking about it again. I want to do this again. Never mind what I said. Like, fuck. So confusing. Like, fuck off with that shit. I'm glad that didn't happen.
It's not easy for them.
Oh, it's really not. Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to be on his side of the relationship. So,
yeah,
I can say that I wouldn't, I wouldn't want that.
Yeah, I truly love and admire cucks so much for having that mental strength to be able to go through that and loving it at the same time. And it's just like, wow. But there is that potential for damage. There is that to the cuckoldress, to the cuck, to the relationship. So I don't want to downplay that, but yeah. All right. Where did it go from there? So obviously things kind of worked out well, and you guys eventually, you were madly in love. You decided to get married. Like, what was all going on during that time?
Well, I mean, that was just the first time was I guess the stepping stone. And then during the first year, almost, it was very, very active life, I would say. It was also me figuring out what I like in terms of this cuckolding relationship, what kind of guys I like, if I can really do this, with more and more people, for example, or if I'm, convincing myself as well that I'm not cheating myself or I'm not lying to myself, that I can do this.
Yes.
So it was quite an active life. We ended up I had my first threesome quite quickly during the first year with two guys. I had my first interracial foursome during the first year. I had a lot of crazy things happen during the first year that you would not, you have a hard time, comprehending if you're maybe from like my circle of friends or somewhere from the kind of the normal, downplaying it kind of couple that we did quite a bit of weird things, but it was a very exciting first year and then some. So.
Have you heard of Afterglow? You guys, this is so amazing. You've probably heard me talk about cuck porn before and how much I'm not really a big fan. And why? Because it's not really made for women, right? But Afterglow is different. Afterglow is ethical porn made by women, for women. Well, it's for everyone, but it is especially for women. And I'll give you an example. They have hot wifing videos that one of them is that I watched. It was narrated by a woman. Okay. So hot. It's from her perspective, from her point of view. Oh my God. So sexy. Lots of interaction between her and her husband, lots of eye contact, all that sort of stuff. Like, it's hot. Guys, if you want to get your wife or girlfriend into this kind of thing, watch this together. I'm telling you. But it's not just videos. They actually have guided masturbations. They have partner exercises to improve communication and intimacy. And they have candid interviews with sex educators, influencers, and therapists. Like, there's so much more than just porn videos. It's amazing. Definitely check it out. With the code Venus, you can try it out for a week. The website is xoafterglow.com, and the code you need for your free week is Venus. That's xoafterglow.com. Check out the show notes if you can't remember, if you just want the link. Enjoy. Wow. So an interracial foursome, does that mean you had like three black guys?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
And maybe a funny story to that was that they were the big kind. And actually what happened was that I did have, two, I had sex with two of them at the same time that time. And then actually my boyfriend at the time, or my husband, asked if that happened. And he asked me straight after I came home, and I could just tell that he was such in a distressed state that I actually lied to him that no, that didn't happen. But then a few months after, I confessed that yes, it did, but I just didn't think he could handle it. That I would have said yes to that. But yes, so I mean, I haven't been perfect at this either. So I do admit that I have come up with, some white lies at times, but it was fine in the end. But.
Yeah. So I'm sure he was turned on by it anyway.
Yes, yeah. He was. Yes.
Well, if your pussy can handle both those dicks, then your cuck can handle listening to the story.
Yes. It was fine. Yes.
So these are all guys you found on Tinder?
No. So we found them here and there. Okay. Let's put it that way. But okay. Yes.
So did that kind of spark a preference for black guys?
It did. I'll have to also say that the first one that I was with did fit that picture as well. But yes, I think experience kind of dragged me there, even though it's not like so where I live, it's not like half the population is black, so it's kind of hard to find men like that. But we just went through some experiences, ended up in a few parties. They're actually, becoming more and more popular as well. And I just kind of realized that the vibe is also quite different.
Yes.
They have just this very positive energy, very, it's not so much about, for them to, that they're, proud of themselves because they get to be with a woman, but it's more like just shared joy. And it's so much more about, just having fun. Not really being so bothered about the fact that I have a boyfriend or getting cocky about it, that they're somehow better than my boyfriend because I want to be with them instead. But it's just this vibe that, they're quite very laid back, and very good lovers, I have to say as well. just like they're just a bit more than,
yeah,
than the usual suspects. So.
Yeah, they're very hard to come by here where I live too in Canada. Like there's just not a lot of them. But it's funny how that happens because like it was my first cuck boyfriend that suggested I seek out black men. And I had one or two really good experiences with black men before that. So I was just like, oh yeah, like it was good. So I was like, all right, sure. Yeah, great idea. And I was not exclusively looking for black men after that, but it just ended up being like the ones, not all of them, but most of the ones that I did find and I had really great experiences with. And you're right, they just go with the flow, chill, kind of like, yeah, we're good kind of attitude. And it was just like it's such a great experience for all around that I just ended up just seeking out those guys.
Yeah, pretty much the same for me. It ended up being, just a preference also just because of the way they were. So it was very no drama, very, very laid back, you didn't have to think if you were being too slutty or, or anything. It was just two people enjoying each other and actually, like, being able to admit it that you can be like this and just have fun. And we both really enjoy it. And yes.
Did your husband have like fantasies about interracial cuckolding stuff?
Not in that sense. So he did know that, for example, where we found these men, that this was a thing also in here, and that it would be possible to have that sort of experience if I wanted to.
Okay.
But it was the same for me. So I have, throughout my life, I have been, drawn to, like BBC porn, but I didn't really think ever that that was for me, or that it would be like reality, for
Yeah.
example, for me, or that, possible in any way. So I didn't really have that sort of preference. I mean, yes, but it was always that I found it through experience and not some predetermined, fetish that,
Yeah.
it must be this way. But no, I mean, if they weren't as great as I experienced them to be, I wouldn't have ended up this way. So
Yeah, there's a reason for it.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then, so when you guys were making plans to like get married and stuff like that, did you ever think about any kind of cuckolding scenarios, fantasies around that?
Well, yes, very, very funny for you to ask that, because when I first met my boyfriend, or now husband, one of the first resources that I did actually find very helpful was your podcast. So I listened to that since I've whenever it started. It was definitely the early years, and I listened to that. There were quite a few good episodes about just like how great cuck husbands are, but you also shared quite a bit of your experiences, and you had this. I remember you speaking about this like wedding night fantasy where it was actually a gangbang with a bunch of black guys, and it so turned out to be that I had a few lovers when I got married, and we were actually thinking about that maybe I would have had sex with one of those guys instead during our wedding night. And we even asked one of the guys that I knew, and he actually said yes. But a few things got in the way, but so we never went through with that. But we were actually very serious about doing something wild like that for our wedding night. So
I love that so much. Yes, I have spoken about that over the years. Having a BBC gangbang on my wedding night is my biggest fantasy that I've always had. Who knows if it'll ever happen? But you know what's so funny? One of the guys from my Helpful Cuck supporter tier was telling me, I think this week or last week, he said, yeah, so black.com has a new cuckolding porn website. It's just for cuck porn, and it's called wifey.com. And I was like, okay, wifey. And then he's like, yeah, there's I think he said something like there's lots of videos on there he's seeing more and more videos of the wedding night BBC gangbang kind of theme going on. And I was like, I wonder if I've influenced this. Like because I've talked about this for like a decade now, I wonder if there's a whole bunch of people all over the world who are thinking about this specific fantasy, and now they're consuming all of this wedding night BBC porn.
But I mean, that didn't happen. But as it turns out, we actually did start a pussy-free relationship with my husband from our wedding day. And what did happen was that I ended up having sex with a black guy as the last person before I got married, and then with the same guy also after I got married. So,
oh wow!
So he was still the first one that I actually had intercourse with after I got married. So
I love that. That is so hot. And so you guys decided that as of your marriage, your wedding day, that he would no longer get sex. So you guys had sex on your wedding night, and that was it after that? Are you single and thinking about finding love in 2025? Venus Connections matchmaking service is now offering discounts of 20 to 70% off for most memberships, but only for a limited time. So check it out at venusconnections.com to learn more. It's private matchmaking, so no scrolling through profiles, just carefully picked matches for you. And fun blind dates. Women love it because it's safe and they don't have to waste time with fakes and flakes because all members are vetted and interviewed. Men love it because they don't have to worry about bringing up cuckolding or FLR. She's in the program, so that's all sorted out. They can just focus on building a real relationship. Go to venusconnections.com and make 2025 the year for love.
I know we actually didn't have sex on our wedding night, or we did, but it was strap on and all sorts of other sex, but not him
right.
Having sex with me in the traditional way. So
you pegged him on your wedding night?
Yes, I did. And we had some experiences with like trying a pussy-free relationship before that. So we did have like a sexless September or something like that we kind of like introduced into our relationship in the very beginning. But then as time went on, we realized that we were more and more inclined that way. That he would still get like, because he was never that great of a lover himself, and he would always feel quite a big pressure in relation to intercourse and like being able to satisfy me in the traditional way. And then we realized that, well, maybe starting from our wedding would be like a big enough date to start it. And then now it's been more than 2 years, and we're still very, very happy with that choice.
So you guys still have a sex life together. It's just that your sex life looks different than most people think is the default for sex, which is PIV sex. So all you've done is like cut out the PIV sex, right?
Yes.
But you're still having all sorts of other fun, fulfilling, satisfying sexual pleasure.
Yes. And that's definitely what we both want. So, none of us want, the whole like, that there's nothing sexual between us. Quite the contrary. I mean, we are very drawn to each other in that way. And we want to keep our relationship that way, that we are very, very sexual beings. And we love going to parties and love experiencing, all sorts of things. But we just decided to cut out the PIV sex.
And how has that been for you? Do you feel like you're missing out on anything with your husband?
No.
Okay.
No. It's actually been very great to us. I mean, and it's a philosophical sense as well to both of us, that it's more like, I don't have to, think about also, giving sex to him when I'm with these other people. And it's just kind of, and for him as well, it's about him not having to worry about, disappointing me when we have sex in the normal sense of the word. And it's just a very, how to explain it? It's a philosophical way of living as well. So,
two of the podcasts that I listen to on the regular, Dr. Justin Lee Miller's Sex and Psychology and Dan Savage's Savage Lovecast. And I've noticed the theme that people need to expand the script or change the script when it comes to sex, because PIV sex for women is generally not that pleasurable for us as it is for men. And so I've just heard a lot about like couples really, it would be great to like have a month where you don't have PIV sex, and instead as a couple you expand your possibilities of trying all of these other things, and how beneficial that would be for couples. And I'm like listening to this going, yes, we absolutely need to do that. Because if there's one thing about cuckolding that I have learned is that this is a great expansion of your sex life. And for some people, it does include actually like cutting down or decreasing the PIV sex and having all of this other fun, whether it be some kinky stuff like pegging or whatever, or just learning how to eat pussy like a champion, or, like enjoying that, like, reconnecting sex afterwards or whatever, like lots of other things other than just put your dick in me and in 5 minutes, you're going to have an orgasm and I won't, that kind of thing. And so like, I love hearing about this. And but I should say, there's also this very like common misconception that cucks don't have sex with their wife.
Yes.
And that in most cuckolding relationships, there's this, very hard and fast rule of like no PIV, like she does not want to have sex with him, like she has no interest in that, and blah blah blah, and like he's just basically like left out of the sexual equation. And that's not true. I would say the definitely the most common situation with cuckolding couples out there is that they still have a very healthy, robust PIV sex life together. And for anybody listening who doesn't know what PIV means, penis and vagina, that's the like typical default sex thing, whatever. But for couples who do engage in this kind of like sexual denial, PIV sexual denial, so many times he's not left out of the sexual equation, that this means it's actually lots of fun for him in many different ways. And I love and adore that you guys have gone there and done that, and that it's benefited in your relationship, right?
Yes, definitely. And I mean, for him, for example, he comes very quickly. So if we do have, or if we had sex, we sometimes timed it. It was less than a minute, and he was, ready to come, or something like that at the end, where we decided to give up on PIV sex. I didn't even have time to come myself, even though I'm quite quick normally to have an orgasm, and quite easy to do so. But I didn't have time for it, and it was just. It took away a lot of the noise in the sex. It kind of opened up both of our eyes to, what else is there for us, and that we weren't always so focused on just that. And I mean, I'm the one, sort of to blame there as well, that I grew up in a society where I used to think that way as well. Mm-hmm. Like, if I went without a week, without having like the normal penetrative sex, I thought that, what's wrong with me? Why doesn't he want me, for example? Like, it was a measure of, a successful sex life.
Right.
And I was happy to, kind of, reintroduce that whole world that, what if it's not about, the penetration itself, but what if it's, everything else, and that it doesn't have to be so, intercourse focused.
Yes. Yes. I love this. Have there been any instances where he's like, oh, I really want to have PIV sex with you tonight? And you were like, no?
Not really. I mean, some, but they haven't been, serious at all, I would say. So just like, kind of like, a very, very small instance, but we both know that wasn't a very serious moment of like, should we reconsider this choice that we've made? So no, not at all. Actually, I've been very, very, very proud of him that it hasn't been about me having to deny him, because I'm not that kind of a person. I'm not like a very, dominatrix, I enjoy denying him things, being ruthless type of person. Quite the contrary. I'm like, if I see you that you're actually really struggling, then I want to bring it up and, be like, are you okay? Like, are you really fine? Do you want to continue this, or are you suffering? So I'm very proud of him that it hasn't been like a lot of begging or a lot of like, I want you to say no to me, and I want you to, be rough with me. That, that hasn't entered the equation. So I'm very proud of him.
Does he like, do you guys do chastity at all?
A little bit. We're getting there. So he has a chastity belt, and we've started to experiment with it, so that he would be. But that is a desire for both of us, that we would like to introduce that more and more into our relationship, and he does enjoy it, and we found a cage that fits, and so yes, it's just about having the guts to actually try it out a bit more.
Yes.
To go through a few hours in the public, for example, or at home for a whole day or something.
Yeah. Are there any other things, fantasies, desires that you would like to have realized in the next little while or few years? Or is there like a bucket list that you have going on?
We do have, a kind of a bucket list. It's more about, things that we have talked about, maybe not so much like the ultimate things that we want to do, but, we've talked about quite a bit, because he's a little bit of like bi-curious within the cuckolding aspect. So he not really bi, but enjoys the idea of like being submissive to a better man, for example. So we have thought about, what if I saw him with another guy, like he has seen me with another guy? So maybe that's something that we want to do. That I see him being a little sissy. to a
Oh,
proper guy, and things like that. But yes,
how do you feel about that?
very excited, very excited. I would be thrilled because I mean, I would be easily turned on by that, and yes, I
Wow.
know that it would be hot to see that.
Wow. And you said so he's watched you with a black guy once?
Yes, once, yes.
And that was at a sex club or something?
Yes, so it was a party. It was a BBC or cuckolding BBC type of party. So mainly hot wives and black men, which was actually a very refreshing experience as well to see that in real life as a publicly announced party.
Yes.
Which made me feel as if the black guys also want it, and it was organized by this group of black men. So it made me feel like I'm not doing anything wrong here by wanting this sort of interaction myself either. That it's actually something that they want as well.
Yeah.
That it doesn't, because I mean these things do come with a bit of a is this really right, or
yes,
should this be
Do you still struggle with that, like the moral dilemma?
Not so much anymore. Not so much anymore. After I've seen so much of it, unfold in front of my own eyes, it's not that much of an issue anymore. It was in the beginning because it was a bit of a, are we, being rude or insensitive or whatever.
At that party when your husband was watching you, was that weird? Like, was it odd?
It was scary at first, or not necessarily scary, but it was nerve wracking. But even that quite went the way I expected. So it wasn't like him jerking off in a corner in a cuck chair of a hotel room, but it was more of him just watching and being quite unbothered in a good way, I guess. Just taking it all in, but without any pressure on him either that he should be a certain way.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect him to be a certain way when he was watching me, so I didn't feel let down when he wasn't jerking off when he was watching, or that it felt quite natural that it happened the way it did. That it is the first time you're seeing your beloved partner with anyone, that it might be you might be closer to throwing up than
oh
than
dear.
coming. So yes. No matter how much you've heard about it or seen some videos at times, but it might still be pretty a big thing.
So at that party, were you able to meet other couples and talk to other people in the same lifestyle?
Yes, we did, and that was very eye-opening as well, because we don't really have a community, where we're from. So
yeah,
it was very nice to be able to speak to other people that are like us and enjoy the same things, and kind of get the feeling that this is perfectly fine and this is normal, and it was very nice.
I want to go back a little bit to that document that you guys made that had your rules, your boundaries, your limits, your expectations, and all of that on there. Was that just something that you used in the beginning, or is that a document that you still use today?
I would have to say we used it in the beginning, and since then, quite a bit of the rules have relaxed quite a bit, but with good intention, and with us thinking about them. So it hasn't been just like we forgot about them, but it's just something that we have thought about, that maybe this is not so important anymore, that maybe we don't have to be this strict anymore, but it's fine.
So would you recommend that for other couples, or is there any other helpful advice that you would give to couples like that who are thinking about doing this together?
I would really recommend it. Not necessarily, you don't have to come up with a document, but I think it just helped us to really, really talk about things. Yeah. So to really consider, so that we didn't, just rush into something without actually thinking about it. So, we had to, voice our concerns, both of our concerns, and be very clear about, for example, protection, very, minute issues like, should you always use protection? Should you always tell the other person when you're seeing someone, or what if someone, when they've been horny, they've said that I'd like you to sometimes tell me about it afterwards, but is that really what they're thinking, or would they still actually want to know beforehand, for example, or
Right.
just basically all the rules that you can think of, or all the concerns that I would recommend it, because I don't think that you can be too careful when you're starting this thing.
Yeah, I know. I've heard of one other couple who did a document together, and they basically came up with all of the scenarios that might happen in their mind. Like, what happens if this happens, and everything like that. And they came up with this document, and then they would each go through each one of those scenarios or questions or issues that might come up, and they would write it out exactly, this is what we would do, kind of this is what I foresee, blah, blah, blah. And it helped them kind of feel prepared for going into this together. Okay, we've thought about that. We've talked about that. This is kind of how we anticipate it going if that happens, kind of thing. And I think that is really helpful for couples. And so if anybody's listening who thinks that might be a good idea, go for it. Do it.
Yes.
Okay, that's it for the show. We've run out of time. Emma, I am so grateful for you to come on the show and share your story. This has been such a great experience to be able to hear it from your perspective and the journey that you've been on, all of the things that you guys like to do together, and how your relationship has evolved. It's been fascinating for me. So I have really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you so much as well.
That's going to be it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you go to venuscuckoldress.com. That's where you can book a private chat with me. And you can also join the Queen's Quarters community and get all the amazing benefits like the private podcast and the Helpful Cuck tier, where you can get key holding, the private Snapchat group, monthly private chats with me, and weekly live hangouts and invites to special live events. Oh, and you can also submit a question or a confession for the show. Just go to venuscuckoldress.com and click on the link that says the podcast. Make sure you follow me on Blue Sky Social. Yes, I said Blue Sky Social. Fuck Twitter. My handle there is @CuckoldressV. All right, that's it for today's show, you guys. We'll see you next time.
Interracial, black and white, the beautiful and sexy relationship dynamic that we love, now in a lifestyle clothing brand you can wear with pride. Don't sacrifice quality and comfort any longer. With Maison de Neige, you get both in fresh, empowering looks for every occasion, for everyone. From the streets to the sheets and everywhere in between. Check us out at maisondeneige.com. Maison de Neige Couture, modern fashion for the modern revolution.